see you again, Angela.
Hi, Saf. Nice to be here.
And yourself, thank you very much. We're both at the Are You Prepared for the Apprenticeship Levy Conference here in Coventry. How's it going so far? Obviously, we've heard the SFA, the two ladies from SFA, give their presentation. How are you finding it so far?
Great clarity. I think it's really all coming together now, and you can really sort of see, you know, the detail behind this strategy. And I think it's really encouraging.
Fantastic.
It's really good news for the industry, I think.
In terms of, you know, your own background, obviously you're the CEO, the founder of Middleton Murray, in business since 2002, I believe, nearly 15, 16 years.
Started that business then, been in business for longer than that.
You've been, you were in the corporate sector beforehand. A little bit of background, if you don't mind, just in terms of yourself.
Well, I joined BP Oil at the age of 18. And I suppose a bit like an apprenticeship, although they didn't call it an apprenticeship, because over 4 years they sponsored me to do a degree in business studies. And during that time I went through a whole number of different departments. I did sales, IT, HR, drove all around the country training sales reps, ended up being a sales rep in the southeast, selling fuel oil and bitumen products.
Right.
So did a lot of jobs actually, and was with BP for 10 years. And then I moved into what was the Woolwich, so that was then acquired by Barclays, and did about 10 years with them, a whole variety of different jobs. And I suppose it makes me look very old because I was actually responsible for putting the first PCs onto everyone's desks at the Woolwich, so that was quite interesting. We've come a long way since then. And I started Middleton Murray in 2002, but before that I had various business interests with my husband.
Right, okay. And Middleton Murray started off as a recruitment company, I believe?
Yeah. So straightforward recruitment company designed really to place mid-level professionals into just the local area. And I think probably part of my personality, you know, I was very interested in how is it done elsewhere, what the large recruitment companies actually doing, where can we get efficiencies. I mean, at that time there were no job boards even, believe it or not. So I think Reed were the very first job board.
Technology has changed quite considerably since then.
And I had to, you know, fight with the recruiters that I first took on and to get their little black boxes away from them and get them online. So it was a straightforward recruitment company, and it sort of diversified into a number of different directions because we've always had very close bonds with our clients, our employer clients, and when they wanted different things, we started to look at whether we could, you know, service those needs. And so we did events and we did accounts and all sorts of things, but in particular we did training. And then the other side of the training piece was that we always did a lot of work with candidates before they actually went into interview.
A lot of pre-employment training.
A lot of even if they were already in a job but were about to move to a next job, what we always found was, you know, we wanted to put a very prepared candidate in front of the client.
So getting them ready.
So we did a lot of work with them. Number one, to make sure it was definitely the right job for them and that they really wanted it, and so they could show that passion. But secondly, to be sure that you know, they were well prepared and they could show the best of themselves.
So a lot of added value in terms of your clients and so forth, and personalisation to a certain extent.
Yeah, and I've always thought that's probably the most important and one of the keys to being successful in business.
So there was a transition from a recruitment company then to an apprenticeship training provider, and obviously you've been in the apprenticeship training sector for a number of years now as well. And how's that journey been from really being a commercial entity to looking at the whole funding sector and the government regulations and so forth? Yeah,
well, it's a real sort of baptism of fire when we first got involved in that. And as you know, it is a pretty complex area to sort of get a grip of, and it's been a very steep learning curve, to be honest. But we started it by being introduced to the National Apprenticeship Service by somebody, simply because of the work that we were doing with young people as part of our recruitment business, and gradually sort of navigated, you know, the details of the funding system. Started off as a subcontractor, then built up a number of different subcontracts, then won a direct contract. During that time, I acquired a couple of businesses. I started to recruit people who were experienced within the industry. I was always very careful, actually, and I still am, to make sure that I have a balance of commercial individuals from the recruitment world as well as individuals who've started from the funded sector, because I think it's great to have that balance and that different perspective. It merges really nicely, and to the place where we are now, where we've got a very good grasp of really what the strategic picture is of the government. I think that's very important, to keep very close eyes on what they're trying to do from a big picture point of view, and we follow very closely the changes in the funding rules.
Angela, you're a published author. You're very successful in terms of speaking engagements. You've been in the press media talking about young people, getting them into employment and so forth. Any words of advice for young people potentially in terms of the opportunities with apprenticeships and also obviously graduate schemes and all the opportunities that are there? Is it a good time to be young and potentially what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great time to be any age, to be really honest with you. But I do see in youngsters, they are full of fears and concerns, and very conscious of what they perceive to be their inadequacies, and I really find it such a shame when young people come and they've already labelled themselves as failures, and I'm terrible at maths, or I'm not good at this, or I'm not academic, and they very often want to talk about what they can't do. So the first piece of advice really for young people is think about what you would like to do. Forget about the reasons why you think you can't, and just be really clear on what you would love to do. Because the more you can conjure up a vision of what you would love to do, the more passionate and focused you can be on it. And I get so many young people who come to us and say, well, I don't mind what I do. I'll do anything. And actually that is a real turn off to employers, because employers then think, well, if he's not really that bothered or she's not that bothered, they might just go and leave me in 6 months' time and go and do something else. So spend some time really focusing on the niche that you would love to be in. Think about how that fits into the life that you would like to build for yourself, and when you're really clear on that, then start to implement all the different strategies to be able to target, to achieve that target. And there are so many different strategies. I mean, sometimes youngsters come to me and they say, well, I've tried, I've applied for so many jobs, and yet they're not clear on their niche. They've really done a bit of a scattergun approach. Rather than draw up a whole list of potential employers in that niche. And maybe they've only used one channel, which it might be letters or emails, and they haven't looked at social media, etc. They've not packaged themselves up, so there's lots that we do with them in terms of packaging themselves up. That's the way they present themselves, of course, but it is their social media profile.
The whole branding
the
part
whole
of it.
branding piece of it. But I think it's a great time to be young now, because you've got these fantastic two very viable options: go to university or go via an apprenticeship. And actually one can be a stepping stone to the other as well.
And we just talked about you being a published author, and obviously you've had great success with your first book. There's a little bird that tells me that you're currently writing another book that's going to be published very shortly.
Yes.
Can you just share that with us in terms of what that is?
Well, the first book was designed for the young person themselves, and it was called How to Get Your First Job and Build the Career You Want. But as we know, there are so many other stakeholders in this whole thing, ranging from parents to employers themselves through to schools. And, very often when young people come to us, they are on the back foot. They don't believe that they're going to be able to achieve maybe, a great career. And I think that a lot of the work that we do to actually transform them and make them feel super confident and be clear on their niche could be done quite easily in schools. And I am very sympathetic to schools and the efforts they go to try to provide good careers advice. However, they are driven by academic results at the end of the day, and it leaves little time. So what I've come up with is a way that schools can actually embed a lot of the techniques that we use into their curriculum. So it's what I call no extra time. They can actually embed these techniques to enable the young person to be very clear on what the niche is, and to understand that school is a very important stepping stone to achieving the career that they want.
Right.
And that will hopefully mean that the youngster is much more engaged, that they will do their maths and English. Even if they don't enjoy it, they will sort of just get on with it and take it almost like medicine, because they know it's a means to an end. And so I hope that the book will be really useful to leadership teams within schools. Having been a governor of a couple of schools myself, I know they're very open to this type of advice, and it will be published very soon.
Right, so it's more of a manual, a guide sort of for the industry, for schools predominantly,
I hope it will be something that they can just pick up. It will have 100 tips in it.
Right.
Half the book is the descriptive side of how I think this can be done, and then the other half of it is literally a manual, and it contains a number of different templates and techniques that we actually use that are proven and that really work, and take the young person from being not confident and when they very first come to us, to the point where they can shine at interview, they can sustain a job, they're very clear on what they want and they're very focused.
So a lot of
So that'll all
soft
be in
skills
there.
and so forth.
But also some
techniques.
real tangible things as well, so that hopefully it will be a handbook for schools.
So a lot of experience from your personal perspective and so forth. I mean, in terms of social media, you touched on. I mean, LinkedIn, Twitter. I mean, you're very savvy. You use that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that you encourage? I mean, I know they're on Snapchat and those sort of tools,
Yeah.
Instagram and so forth. Would you encourage somebody to adapt, say, LinkedIn and sort of Twitter in terms of their day-to-day?
Definitely, yeah. I think it's really important. They're obviously very familiar with Snapchat. That's
and
the cool thing
Instagram
now, and Instagram and Facebook actually has become a little bit old hat for them. I think they look at it, but they don't post on it anymore. Their mums look at it, and that's why. But we often introduce LinkedIn to 16-year-olds, and they've never heard of it. And if you think, I think LinkedIn's got something like more than 20 million users in the UK, even so. It's mad that they've not actually come across it yet. So we get them to build their profile.
Missing a big opportunity.
Missing opportunities, just if nothing else, for inspiration. In that early stage, they're not necessarily going to build up a network, but what they can do is to look at groups and forums, and look at individuals that they aspire
can connect to and so
and look at them from role models, see where they started, look at their career history. The same on Twitter. If they find somebody who they think could be a role model, find out about their history on LinkedIn, go across to Twitter, see what they're saying on Twitter. It just opens up another sort of world for the youngsters to sort of see what's going on.
It's so easy to engage with somebody on Twitter as well. I mean, that's the
ask them relevant questions, and then they'll probably get an answer back. That's how they can start connecting. Yeah.
I mean, again, we're at this conference, and the hashtag is going wild, and you can sort of see the conversation and so forth, and engage in that, and even if you haven't met somebody, you'll start talking to them and engage, and that's sometimes the way to sort of build a network to a certain extent.
Definitely, yeah. So there's a lot of work, although they think that they are, actually they've got the monopoly on social media. They really
social media savvy, but they need to sort of start looking at this whole area where they could potentially be missing out.
Yeah, and of course making sure that they close down their the privacy aspects of their social network as well is really important.
Yeah. Angela, I wanted to touch on your involvement with the Virgin sort of Voom stuff that you were involved with. I mean, how was that? I mean, obviously, firstly, congratulations, you were one of the 12 professionals that was chosen. How was that experience for you? Just share that with us as
it was. No, it was just a great experience, and it could have knocked me down with a feather really when they told me that they wanted me. I think they sent an email that said we want you, and I just thought it was some sort of spam email. It was great to be chosen, and also they chose me to represent entrepreneurship. So what that meant was, we got involved in a pitch-a-thon, which was fascinating experience. So I was sat there with some other, very prestigious
individuals,
business owners and celebrities, and sat there and listened to pitches. And it was a sort of a 29-hour pitch-a-thon. Wow. So my session was only about 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours, I think.
What was the sort of quality like? What was the caliber of people?
I mean, you couldn't fault anyone for passion. I'll give them that. And obviously, in order for them to have actually got in front of the actual panel, they had to have achieved quite a lot of votes. So they were passionate people to start off with. The content of the businesses varied. Some were really fascinating and obscure, and others were you'd seen those businesses before, and they were good businesses, but they were not going to probably get that exponential growth, which is what was being looked for. But they were great business people, and you could really see the entrepreneurship that goes on in this country. So that was really inspiring. And then it moved on, and until we ended up basically shortlisting 6 businesses, and that was great for me because I was allowed to ask any questions I wanted. Bearing in mind I was representing entrepreneurship, so it was really good to be able to put my interview head on and to really find out just whether they had the sort of qualities that I think you need, to sort of succeed really in business. Yeah.
Just going back on apprenticeships, obviously we've got the next session starting in a moment. Is it a good time to be a training provider? A good time to be in terms of actually in the sector? I mean, there's a lot of doom and gloom. People, you talked about change yourself earlier on. I mean, is this a good time for providers? I mean, what's your words of encouragement?
Well, I mean, I think it's a great time for business across the board, across the UK. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Never before have we had so much support for business startups and for growth, and so I think that's great. In terms of this sector, I mean, again, I just think fantastic opportunities. We've now got large businesses who would really, they may be interested in apprenticeships, but they haven't really been motivated to look at apprenticeships properly. So we've got all these new employers who want to get involved. We've got more focus on it from a government perspective than we've ever had before. The quality as well as the quantity is being looked at. So in terms of volume of business, there's plenty of volume of business there to enable training providers to grow, so long as they're prepared to put the effort in on the quality side. And I think, we all want the same thing. We all want to be delivering quality apprenticeships and being proud of what we do. So I think it's all there for us. And rather than sort of look at what's wrong, we ought to look at what's right and just get on with it.
Okay. For final thing, if you can share your sort of social media, Twitter handles and so forth, if somebody wanted to sort of put you a question or get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Well, they can get me at Middleton Murray or at Angela Middleton. So in fact, I'm just setting up a new Twitter, which is at Angela M Twitter. So if they personally want to get to me, Angela M Twitter is probably the easiest way.
Okay, I'll start following that.
Okay. Well, you may be my second follower then, because it only got set up yesterday.
Okay, fantastic. Angela, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate that. Thanks
love
for your time.
To see you.
Thanks
very much.
Thank you.